In Georgia, we don't want the boys playing in the girls' sports and taking over our teams. That's the great news. The district that I'm from is a big believer that there's only two genders, male and female, and you can always trust the science on that one. I just want to thank all of you for being here and standing up for what you believe in, whether you're an athlete, a former athlete, a mother, or just a woman that cares about protecting girls and women's sports, our privacy, our locker rooms, our rights, Title IX. I want to thank you for being here. My name's Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm from the 14th District of Georgia, and I'm proud to represent Northwest Georgia. And Riley, I'm excited to talk on this issue because it's something I've cared about for a long time. I'm also a former athlete. I grew up playing every sport I could possibly get my parents to sign me up for, ranging from softball to soccer, and spent a lot of time in water sports as well. But as an adult, I competed at the top level in a sport called CrossFit. And it's a very difficult sport. It's a combination of weightlifting, gymnastics, and endurance. I wasn't anywhere near the top 10, but in 2015, I was 47th in the world, and that was a pretty big accomplishment for me. I was also a CrossFit gym owner, so I was a business owner and an athlete. And in 2014, there was a biological male that identified as a woman competing in CrossFit that sued CrossFit because they wanted to be able to compete in the women's division. Well, I found this to be a big problem, and it concerned me for my own sport. Because here's the deal, my business owner was a CrossFit Games athlete. He was a man. And I trained with him. I also trained with other male athletes. And I knew how strong they were. And I knew how good they were because I could never beat them. And then in 2017, when I signed up for one of the qualifiers, it wasn't a CrossFit Games qualifier, it was another worldwide competition, I found out that there was a man on the roster that had signed up too. In my division, and I was so upset. I couldn't believe this. I was like, why do I have to compete with men? I shouldn't have to. I should enjoy this sport with the other female athletes because I have the right to do that. So I stopped competing in CrossFit, and it saddened me to be able to stop the sport that I loved. But I also felt silenced because I was an owner of a CrossFit gym. And I didn't want to offend any of my gym members, and I think that was a problem. But another reason why this issue is such an important issue for me is not for myself, but I'm also a mother. And I have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. But my middle child, my daughter, she just graduated from the University of North Carolina, Division I athlete, softball player. She was a starting catcher as a Tar Heel. Very proud of her, but like you, Riley, and the other athletes here, she started playing. I signed her up for softball when she was 4 years old, and that kid couldn't put the ball down and begged me every single day to play with her out in the yard. We traveled the country with her, played all over. She won championship after championship. She holds the home run record, and I'm so proud of her. But here's the biggest problem facing college athletes, girls that are competing in the sport they trained for their entire lives, the sports they loved. If you're an athlete on scholarship, you belong to the school. And you're not allowed to speak up. You are silenced because you have to keep your mouth shut. You're controlled over what you're allowed to post on social media, what you're allowed to say. You can't be political because you're not allowed to. You represent the school and you're paid by the school. That's what your scholarship is. And so this puts female athletes in a very difficult position. Not only do you want to be able to play in the sport you love, and you want to be able to compete at the highest level because that's what you work so hard your entire life to be able to do, but you can't say how you feel about men trying to take your place on the playing field, the swimming pool, the court, whatever your sport is. You are silenced because these female athletes are afraid of losing their scholarships. They're afraid of losing their starting position because they went there and called out the woke politics that are destroying women's sports. And that is something that we have got to stop. I'm honored to be a co-sponsor on Congressman Greg Steube's bill that would stop this outrage and end biological men's assault on women's sports and their tactics. And I don't care if it's a mental illness, I don't care what it is, it's straight up evil. And they do not belong in girls and women's sports. So I echo what my colleagues here on the stage have said. We will fight for you, we will stand up for you, and we will work as hard as possible until we stop this and keep the guys out of the locker rooms, the bathrooms, your hotel rooms when you travel, and competing with you to try to steal your spot. Thank you. In Georgia, we don't want the boys playing in the girls' sports and taking over our teams. That's the great news. The district that I'm from is a big believer that there's only two genders, male and female, and you can always trust the science on that one because that's proven, and it's hard to believe that's even a debatable issue these days. And again, I echo your sentiment, which I think was so wise to bring up, and I know you're from Georgia Tech and Cartersville, right? Cartersville, Georgia. But you're absolutely right. It's not an issue of judgment or hating people based on their sexuality. Not at all. We respect people's maybe how they choose to identify or their sexuality, but we just don't want biological males taking over girls and women's sports. It's not a hate issue. It's not a problem that how we feel towards the trans community or LGBTQ and however many letters or pluses you have to add. But it's honestly a fact that they need to respect girls and women's sports. But Georgia is totally supporting girls and women's sports. I'm proud to say that.